Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Suthar. Hey guys, oh my word, I am super excited for this episode because we have an amazing person here with us today. Her name is Darla, and why she's amazing is because she's going to be talking about some of the things that she's been getting up to, which she's been doing for years, and that's transformational retreats, right? And she's been doing it for a decade, so she's got it on point now. And so we're going to be asking her about some of the tips, some of the ups, some of the downs that she's experienced along the way to find out how to create the perfect transformational retreats and how she manages to do it as well, like all of these retreats. Plus, she's a best-selling author, and you know I'm going to be asking her about her book too. So please welcome Darla to Make Your Mark podcast. Oh my goodness, Darla, I'm super excited to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me, Kay. I have been listening to some of your episodes and I just love your enthusiasm. It's so contagious.
Oh, thank you. Thing is, you know what? When you're podcasting, you love doing it. You just can't help it. You know this because you have a podcast yourself, right? So that's exciting. All right. So now, Darla, before we get into the nitty-gritty, right, of business and retreats, I know for a fact that you didn't just wake up one morning and bam, you had a retreat business, right? It took a journey. It took several steps to get there. So I'd love for you to share with our audience today a little bit about what that journey really looked like to get to where you are today.
Yeah. So I like to start with, I worked in corporate. I call myself a recovering engineer. And I had a great job. I worked at Procter and Gamble, and it was kind of the dream, right? Like I grew up in a small town, no one in my family had gone to college. There wasn't a lot of people thriving in my town. And I got out, I made it, and I got this great job. And I was about 5 years in, and I was trained as a coach. And well, it was like a volunteer thing within my company to be a diversity coach. And in the training, I learned that mostly we're going around just telling people what they want to hear rather than saying what feels true for us. And once I saw that, right, we did these exercises where we had to tell our truth about our beliefs and biases and judgments. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. And I thought, why doesn't everybody know that if we tell the truth, right, rather than operate from what I call our default energy filters in life, then life is way more fun, it's more engaging, and we save time and all of this stuff. So suddenly I had less tolerance for BS at work. Like, were you ever in corporate?
I was in corporate. I don't know if you know, but I used to be a police officer, right? So there was a lot of ups and downs. Politics going on, right? So I hear what you're saying, but do you know what? One of the things that really kind of sticks out with what you were just saying, like, why doesn't everybody do that? The values, the beliefs, like, and all of that. But I feel like, and maybe you've come across this as well, but do you feel like it's like a protecting mechanism for yourself and people decide that they ain't going to do that because they're going to protect themselves, they can't be vulnerable?
Absolutely. Yes. For me, just to be vulnerable, like one of the things I saw, we had to talk about our biases about gender. And I realized that, my parents divorced when I was young. My mom was constantly bad-mouthing my dad. And I had this bias against men. And I was, a chemical engineer. I worked mainly with men. And I had no idea that that was getting in the way. And so I had to be vulnerable about that and start to explore, well, if there's something true about that, how would that change how I do my job, right? And it really started opening things up for me. And so that was kind of like the gateway in. And now
Okay.
I couldn't work in my job anymore. I knew I needed to do something else with my life, but no one I knew had a business, so I didn't really know how to go become a
Okay.
life coach.
Right. Okay, so okay, that's another thing there, right? So you decided that you knew you had to go and do something else. You left your job not knowing really how you're going to go about starting your next phase of your life. So wasn't there fear there, or you just knew you had to do it? Like, what was going on there?
Well, I'd like to say I just jumped right in, but I left and I taught high school actually. So I got another job thinking this
Mhm.
is the opposite of, engineering products for consumers. And in that work, we held retreats. So I worked at the first Montessori high school in the
Ah,
US.
okay,
And twice a year we had basically like they called them intercessions. It was immersive experiences to help the kids know themselves better.
okay,
And so I got to practice hosting retreats. So I had, my first transformation happened on retreat, and then I had this experience of guiding students. So they're like
right.
little clues moving me forward. I
Ah,
taught for 2 years on a temporary certification as an engineer. And then at that point, I needed to go back and get my certification. And I knew I didn't want to go to the same place every day for the rest of my life as a
okay,
teacher.
okay.
And I wanted
Hmm.
to, I liked teaching, but I wanted to do it in my own way. So, I kind of had that experience and all these things pointing in this direction. But then the real thing that happened is my stepdad got cancer and he died suddenly. And
Oh
he had
wow. Okay.
just gotten into a job that he loved. And so he
Oh,
was 52. He had just
right,
gotten this promotion into, work he was so excited about. He had kind of come up from the ranks. And there was something about that, Kay, where I just thought, I have to know if I can do what I love, right? It's like he finally did it and then he died, and I didn't want to wait anymore. So that was really the, thing that kicked my butt out of
it was your
corporate.
wake up call.
It was.
Right? That's okay. That is massive right there. And so when you went through that and you saw what happened to your stepdad, and you're like, right, okay, no, I've got to do something now. I've got to change things now. I mean, it's really difficult when there's so many people out there that like want to go from a 9 to 5 job to starting their own business. But like you said, you don't know what your next steps are, right? And plus, you didn't have anyone around you to kind of guide you that had their own business. And so, again, with your mindset, right, what was going through your head, right? Like, what are the next steps? How are you gonna make that money to pay the bills quick enough to leave the job that you're in right now? How did you navigate that?
I mean, I really had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Started thinking about retreats. Oh, and I should mention this part. When my stepdad was sick, they
Mm-hmm.
gave him 3 months to live. And he
Oh
wanted to
wow.
fight and he wanted to find experimental treatment and all of this. And yet he kept getting thinner and thinner and, but he's pretending like he's going to live. And
Right.
again, back to that, like, why don't we just tell the truth? Like, nobody wanted to say, like, hey, you just may die. And can we talk about things? And so I started thinking about, is there a place we could go where they would facilitate us having these hard conversations that we're not having? And, I was searching online, which was not that easy at that time, and kind of looking for places, kind of knowing I don't think my family would go anyway, but it like sparked this idea in me of gathering and, having these real conversations. So the
Mm.
retreat thing was always in my mind.
Okay.
So I started planning retreats, and I would partner with someone and we would plan it. And then that person would bail because it wasn't like their real thing. And then I'd be doing nothing again. And then I tried it another time, and I did that a couple times. And a lot of people do that. Like a lot of people have a vision of hosting retreats and they think that it's going to be easier collaborating and doing it with someone
Oh
else.
gosh.
So I did
Mm.
that for a while. Um, and then I had a money miracle happen in my life where I got hired back at my old job. Like they recruited
Mm.
me. And then my company got bought and I got a severance package. And so,
Oh, nice.
yeah, and it was magic. Okay, out of nowhere, like I was just following the signs from the universe and this money appeared. And even then I thought, I don't have enough money to go do this thing. Like
Oh,
how, it never felt like it was going to be enough. But luckily I had a coach who said, well, how much money do you think you need? And don't you think you could live on this? And will there ever be a better time?
mm.
And so I just, you know, I knew I couldn't go back at that point, like after kind of the dark night of the soul of losing my stepdad.
Right.
And so I just went for it. And the reason I would say I was able to make it successful is through coaches. Like I
Mm.
started studying, taking classes online, and one coach introduced me to another, who introduced me to another. Like affiliate marketing got me into a room on a retreat with this guy who did deeply transformational work.
Ah,
And I remember sitting in the audience and thinking, "Oh my gosh, he does what I do." Like this was how I want to work. But then I was like, "But he's actually doing it and I'm not." And so I hired him to help me grow my business.
uh, oh my goodness. Okay, so much stuff there already that I want to kind of talk about. Now, you said that basically what was stopping you is because you always said to yourself that you didn't have enough money. You didn't have enough money to do it, right? Was that really the concern? Was that really the challenge, not having enough money? And how much money did you think you needed for a retreat?
Right. I mean, now I know that wasn't really the challenge, right? Because I help people with their retreats and their business, and
Mhm.
it's never really the money. It's like whatever that is representing. So, for me, I was really concerned about looking smart and making smart decisions.
Ah,
And I
okay.
became an engineer. Like that was my programming. And so the things I ended up doing to create my retreat, they didn't seem smart, right? It was like I didn't have it all together. I didn't look
Oh, wow.
perfect and I had to take action anyway. And so that was what was really stopping me. There was this aspect of you're a chemical engineer. How are you going to go do this weird thing, right? And I would tell people about it and they would wrinkle their nose and they'd be like, "You're going to do what? I don't get it," you know?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. So you've got this coach and he showed you how to do retreats. And so what was the kind of method or the steps that you took to create your very first retreat? Because the first one they always say is the hardest, right?
Yeah. Well, first, I will say I hired the coach, and the coach said, "Don't do retreats. You're not ready yet."
Oh, oh, okay. All right. So how do you know when you're ready then?
Um, it's funny. I'm teaching a webinar today all about this because it's so common because it's risky to go create a retreat. And so it's really common advice to wait until you
Mm-hmm.
know you're ready, know you can fill it, all of that. Now, to be clear, he did help me. He helped me learn how to sell coaching and
Okay.
transformation.
Mhm.
And so that helped me be more ready to do it. But like I knew I didn't want to sit home sending emails and talking on the phone. My whole vision was I wanted to be with people and guide these experiences. And so eventually what I realized looking back is the vision wouldn't let go of me. And so eventually I got my support team on board that I was going to go do this. But nobody sat me down and said, okay, here's how to create a successful transformational experience. And I had to kind of piece it together. And that's part of
Mhm.
why I help people now who, there's a lot of training out there for hosting big events. And I've hosted big
Right.
events. And, I know all that game. And the people I work with they want more intimacy, right? They want to go deep with people and they want to create real change in the world. And so, I had to kind of figure out how to translate what I saw my mentors doing into
Okay.
what was really in my heart to do.
Okay. So I want to speak about this a little bit more about your particular retreats, your transformational retreats, right? And I want to know, what does that really mean, right? When you're helping people transform, yeah, what does that all mean in your eyes, in your heart, and what kind of results are people getting from going to the retreats?
Yeah. So transformation, the way I define it is it's a new awareness that totally shifts how you show up and interact with life. So we've all
Okay.
got these, I call them default energy patterns. And a
Okay.
default energy pattern is some way of being, right? Energy we can feel, it's how we vibrate, it's how we be and show up in the world.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a literal, we do it in patterns and they can be stuck in our body, like physical energy in our body, based on how we learned to behave in the past. So I'll use the example, I had to be smart to get love.
Oh,
So for me, anything that looked like it wasn't smart, I couldn't do, right? And I didn't know that it was blocking me. So for years, when I was thinking about starting this business, I couldn't figure out why, like, okay, I know I'm called to coaching. I read so many self-help books, Kay. I read everything about all of my personality profiles, all of the things that all agreed I'd be good at this work, but I couldn't do it because it didn't look smart. Right. And so the energy pattern, if I'm smart, I get love. Like I believed that so much
mhm.
that it was limiting me. And so we all have
Wow.
these patterns that are hidden from our view. And
Yeah.
once I was able to see that, which also happened on a retreat, I had to sit with, oh, wow. How is, where are all the places that that's limiting me? Like I would always date people I was smarter than, for example, right? So I would be the smart one. Like
Right.
I could see it everywhere. And
Wow.
once we see it, we can't unsee it, right?
Oh
And then
my goodness.
we can create a new energy pattern, something like, it doesn't matter how smart I am, right? Or I get to be smart and dumb.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so when you had that realization, right, and then there was a pattern that was going on for years and years and years, how do you stop that pattern, right? You become aware of it, but do you have to put anything in place? The only reason I ask this is because when it comes to something like this, when it comes to love and the people that you're in relationship with or so forth, I find that you attract those people to you because you're in that state, right? So I guess what I'm asking is, how do you stop attracting the people that you have been attracting because you're going in a different direction now? You've got this awareness. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm a huge believer in is we have to validate the pattern and send it love. So
Okay.
this is why, to me, doing this work on retreat is so powerful because you're in a group setting where people can see this
Mm,
aspect of you and go, oh, I see you trying to be smart and I love you anyway, right? I mean, they may not love me like it's strangers, but but I'm not judging you for it. And when most personal development work doesn't get that deep, right? We're not really sitting with our vulnerable parts and acknowledging and honoring and receiving them. So we're trying to build on top of it. Like, oh, I should
right.
be that way. Like, stop being so, picky about that or whatever. But really, my little 5-year-old believed that.
Right.
So we
Yep.
have to love her up and say, oh, it makes sense that you believe that, and have compassion for that part of you that created that lie like it was true. Like I have to be smart to get love. And it
Oh,
started to shape everything, right? Like at a young age, how do I make sure that I am smart, I look smart, so my dad will show up for me?
wow. Okay. So
So,
it sounds like there's been loads of, I guess, hidden things that were going on that came to light when you yourself were going on these retreats. And this is why you fell in love with retreats and transformational retreats, because that's exactly what they do for people. And so, what do your retreats look like? There's so many people doing retreats out there, right? But no one does retreats the way you do them. So, how do your retreats differ to everybody else that does retreats out there?
so to me, a retreat is any multi-day experience that's designed
Okay.
for transformation, that's designed to help you see what's been hidden from your view. So I'll use an example. That first retreat that I went on with my coach, they had
Yeah.
an exercise around money, and we had to, in the retreat, generate money.
Oh,
So
okay.
experiential, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of my beliefs and patterns around money showed up, and I was able to shift one at that retreat that opened up a whole new possibility for me. And, you had asked, like, how do you start attracting different people? It's like really leaning into being in that different energy, like embodying it and showing up in that way. So, one of the things that I always do, there's two anchor experiences in my retreats, and I train people to do this. And the first is one that is designed to, I say it's like releasing control and being able to receive the truth that's been hidden.
Right.
So,
Okay.
like, for example, being smart
Mm-hmm.
made me feel in control.
Right.
One belief that I had uncovered on this retreat was around there being a right and wrong way to do money. Like, money
Oh,
is scarce and you have to do it right.
yeah.
So, the first experience is really to have someone catch themselves in the act, so to speak, of their pattern.
Okay. I love that. I love that. And the fact there's something that you just mentioned that really kind of, I guess, rang alarm bells for me as well, right? Is when people always say there's a right way and a wrong way, right? Because
Mm.
I used to catch myself saying that all the time. No, you can't do it. That's not the right way. Well, who said that's not the right way? Right? And I've done that for many, many years, right? And it was not I will say about 3, 4 years ago that there isn't a right or a wrong way. It's just different, right? It's just different, and you're finding your way on how to do things. So, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Often whenever we're going into that judgment of good, bad, right, wrong, it's usually a default
Yeah.
energy pattern. It's like someone told us this or we watched. So, for me, my mom was the good one. So
Okay.
she would, when, my parents divorced, right? She
Mhm.
would sit and she would balance her checkbook and she would, back when there were checks, right? She would have me help her sort the checks and she would be all organized about her money. And my dad would not have money to pay child support and he would buy alcohol, right? And so there
Oh,
was
wow.
this like
Mhm.
contrast of good and bad that was just reinforced over and over and over. And when I could like lighten that up a little bit, and
Mhm.
rather than feeling like I had to judge my dad for being wrong about how he did things, and, not that it's great, his behavior, or like it's high integrity or anything like that, not letting him off the hook, but just being like, what is it costing me to be so judgy like that?
Yeah.
And when
Wow.
I thought about, you talked about attracting people. Um, when at that point in my business, I was making about $1,200 a month, but
Mhm.
obviously wanted to make more
Right.
money. But if I was judging how people were spending their money, like, would I
Mhm.
think it was a good idea for them to spend it with me?
Right. Oh, wow. Okay. Right. And so, okay, all these different kind of barriers that you face with mindset, right? And now you're like been doing retreats for years and years, right? And you've honed it in, you know exactly how to do this successfully. So, what would be, I guess, the first things that people need to think about when creating retreats, first of all? And then, secondly, what are some of the things that you see time and time again where you think, no, 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 that's a complete mistake. You don't do it that way?
Yeah, so the first things people usually think is planning is hard.
Okay.
And so I really want people to be tapped into their vision and their why and what I call the soul of their retreat. Like, what is the reason for its existence? And
Okay.
it has to have two reasons. One is business. It has to have a business reason, unless you're just, gathering your friends in your living room, which I also did. Um, but it needs to have a purpose within the flow of your business. Like,
Okay, so I've got a question for you there, right? Do you believe that all retreats should be something where you sell something else at the end of it?
I do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I talk about two different types. There's actually three types. There's a front end retreat, or what I call a connection retreat, where
Right.
anybody can come register. It's new people, they're getting to know you. There's a fulfillment retreat, which I guess I would say I don't sell anything there necessarily,
Right.
unless someone wants to add some private time with you or something like that
Mhm.
because they really need it. But it's not a focus. It's just they've already paid for it. It's part of a longer container. And
Mhm.
um, when people connect with you at a front end retreat, they often want to get back together with you and the other people in the room. That's
Right.
kind of why it's a good sales tool. So
Right.
there's the fulfillment retreat. And then there's what I call destination transformation, where you're traveling and you're going maybe to a sacred site or some sort of adventure travel or something like that. And those typically, my guidance is to charge more and make money on the front.
Right.
So you're not necessarily relying on back end sales, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But even then, I teach something called the anatomy of a transformation. And
Okay.
when we shift our energy, right? When we shift our energy from this default to sourced energy, and then we're going back home into our old environment, it is almost irresponsible to send people home without support.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I like that.
So
Okay. So
if
you
you
would always
yourself
offer them.
don't, yeah, like if you yourself don't want to support them, you could get an affiliate partner to come in who does one-on-one coaching and you could offer that. But they're going to need help holding their energy when they go back home. So,
Right. Okay.
like, for example, when I went home from this retreat where I had this big insight about my mom and dad and money,
Right.
I was in a relationship with someone who worked for the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
who, um, safety and security was a top priority. Like it was a very traditional job with the public utilities. And um, he thought I was selling snake oil,
Well,
literally. You know that
wait,
phrase? Hmm?
no. What does that mean? Snake oil?
Snake oil. Oh, is that just an American thing?
I don't. I've
It's
never heard
like
of that.
it's like back in the day where people used to sell like tonics and things, and they would call it
Okay.
snake oil, like it was going to heal everything, but it
Oh,
was
right, like a
really,
potion.
yes, yeah,
Oh,
but like not a real potion.
yeah.
Like he
Okay.
was totally judgy of everything I was doing. And I was coming back to that environment with someone who was happy with the status quo, doing the same things, right? And
Mhm.
so I knew I needed to change that, but I was really scared. Like if I didn't have support, I don't know if I would have done it.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. That was a lot of different things there. So, okay, you mentioned the different kind of retreats that are out there and how people can do that. Now, you've worked with so many people creating retreats as well. What are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when doing a retreat?
Yeah. So Laura, who I worked with, came to me and she had a contract on her desk that she was about to sign for a big fancy venue on Maui. Now,
Oh,
she had actually signed this contract before, paid a deposit, lost her money, and she was about to do it again, but she was scared, obviously, right? Because the first time she didn't fill the retreat. And so that's when she came to me and she's like,
okay. So she lost her money because she didn't fill the retreat.
"Mhm."
Okay,
Yeah,
all
so
right, got
there's 5 site vibes I teach, 5 different types of venues, and one of them is a spa resort space, and that was what she was going for. And there's a hefty deposit for that. And
okay.
so she was about to sign and pay the deposit again, and she asked for help. And and I'm not one to just give blanket advice, like, don't do that, right? So we spent a little time just feeling into her vision. And she really didn't want to spend her life traveling around the world. She wanted to start a family, she wanted a lifestyle business. And we ended up letting that venue go. And she booked 15 minutes from her home in Columbus, Ohio. And
Right.
she made 75,000 at her first retreat. And her
Wow.
expenses were like 3,000 as opposed to
Stop.
20 or 30 if she had taken people to Maui. The other thing is, but the what she had to move through, Kay, is this thought like, will people really come for me?
Oh,
And
yeah, that's a
in the
big,
way. So people
that's
think,
a
oh, we're going to go to Italy and everybody wants to go to Italy. So it'll be easy to sell. And, Laura was in that place like, oh, if I take them to Hawaii, they'll think it's fancy and they'll like me. And the truth was, it was so much easier to fill the retreat that she wanted to create.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that is powerful right there. And so, what are some of the secrets, I guess, with actually fulfilling retreats, right? Because you would just kind of think, oh yeah, like people want to go to Maui, they're going to want to go there. Like, there's going to be so many people that want to come down. Like, it's going to be impossible not to sell tickets, right? So, I
See
guess
that happen all the time.
right. And then it doesn't happen. And so, what are some of the steps we've got to look at when we are filling seats for our retreats then?
The first tip I'll give is to admit that you need what I call a commitment stage in your marketing. So don't just make a pretty web page and post it on social media. That, like, still today, after doing this for 15 years, I rarely sell a seat that way. You need
Okay.
commitment stage marketing, which is helping people to tap into their desire and the
Hmm.
discomfort of where they are now so that they recognize there's a gap and there's a reason that they really want to go on this transformational experience.
Okay.
Now, you could sell a yoga retreat and you could sell it for $3,000 and, just sell a yoga retreat. Like, people know what that is and they may want to go, but selling it at $3,000, you're not going to make any money
Mm,
because your
right.
venue costs are going to be most of that. And you're going to spend, 6 months filling it to make a very minimal amount of money. But if you're selling transformation, you can charge more, but you have to have these conversations with people. And in the beginning, it should be one-on-one. So have them apply for your retreat, have them create a session that is a breakthrough. So in my example of the one I went on, it could be a money breakthrough session, right?
Mhm.
And in that session, we'd uncover, oh, wow, I really want a money breakthrough. I'm going to go to this retreat. And so in the beginning, you'll want to do that. Eventually, you'll be able to help people, guide them through identifying their gap in a webinar or a group program. But in the beginning, just plan on doing one-on-one calls. You can have people fill out applications and get on the phone with them. Go to events, go network,
Yeah.
go to places where people are going that are already trying to solve a problem
Right.
to
Okay.
them about their desire in the area that you specialize in. What? What's going on
Yeah.
in relationship for you? If you have a relationship retreat, tell me more about that, right? So you're helping one to see that you can actually serve them, that your retreat is good for them,
Right.
and also helping them see, is their commitment to transformation actually present, or would they
Mm,
rather stay the
interesting.
same?
Interesting. Okay. I love this. Okay. We're going deep now. We're going deep, right? Like it's funny because what I'm hearing from you is a lot of the things that we're doing, right, to fill seats in retreat, to get people excited, has nothing to do with people. It's got more to do with us, the hosts, right? That's
And well, this is the reason I don't agree with the advice that people give of like, you're not ready and you need a big list or you need to
Mm,
meet all these criteria first. Because for me, I found myself through the process of filling and hosting my retreat. And that was the thing I
wow.
knew in my heart I wanted to do. And I didn't know. I thought I'd be good at it. I wasn't sure. But at the end, I knew like this makes a difference. And then all of the pieces of my messaging and my marketing started to get clear after that process, right? Before that, it
Oh.
was like, moving post-it notes around on the wall in my office, trying to figure out what the hell I was doing.
Right. Oh my goodness. So, I'm loving everything that you're saying because also what I'm hearing is that you customize retreats, right? Or you show people different perspectives. You're able to pull out, well, actually, you're creating this retreat, but that's not what you want to do. This is the
Yeah.
kind of thing that you want to do, right? And we don't realize it ourselves. And I think we're so much in the whole motion of, oh, well, everybody else is doing it that way. That must be the right way. So we'll do it the same, right? But you're like, well, no, 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 hold up, hold up. Well, what is your heart saying to you, right? What is it that you actually want? Now let's create the retreat that actually um, goes with everything that you're trying to build that you actually want, not what everyone else is doing. And you pull them back, right? As in, right, let's really get into the nitty-gritty of this now, which I absolutely love. And yeah, I'm going to be coming to you about my retreats too. Absolutely. Right, because we have all these ideas for all these retreats, but is it really what we want to do? And is it really something that other people want to attend?
Yeah. It's vulnerable to
Mhm.
create a retreat and all of our ego gets fired up about it. Will people come? Am I giving enough? And we want to, most people need to pare back their content. You need to stop stressing so much about the venue or maybe the guest teachers or the experiences and really trust. Like there's two anchor experiences and they're not the same for everyone, right? They're custom, to your point, based on their expertise and their magic and how they want to work with people and the results they want to deliver. And then there's what happens in between, and it's much less than we think. So
Yeah,
people in the room are bringing the magic and the transformation just along with us, right? We're in it together. But
absolutely.
most people don't trust themselves and the process and the people and source. My company's called Sourced. So to me, there's this other energy in the space. And so we put so much in to avoid, what if I don't know what to do in that moment? What if
Yeah.
I'm not enough? And
Mm,
it's not about that. We're all enough. We're all connected. And there's a method to transformation and we can learn it.
absolutely. Oh my goodness. I feel like I can speak to you all day about this, Darla, right? But I know I cannot spend all day with you here. And so I know that a little birdie told me that you've got a special gift for our listeners today. So what is this little gift?
Do. So, as you probably can tell, I am passionate that people don't let logistics stop them
Okay.
from doing their retreat. So, I've created what I've called the ultimate 57-point checklist for a
Oh my goodness.
world-class transformational retreat. And I've put this together. It's like a 20 some page ebook with literally you can check the boxes, which I know makes some people really happy. And It's available at sourcedexperience.com/checklist.
Amazing. Oh, I love it. Darla, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been awesome having you on here. Do you know what? We'll have to do a part two of this because like there's so much more to retreats and what you do. And I feel like we'd have to have you coming back for sure. Now, before we come to the end of this episode, is there any last tips that you want to share with our audience?
What's present for me is, I grew up in a town of 500. Nobody around me was running a business. Nobody was talking about divine guidance and transformation and magic. And yet something in me felt like more was available. And I knew I wanted to devote my life to that. And so if someone's in that place of, "Oh, I have this crazy idea that maybe I could do this thing," and nobody around you is doing it, and maybe they're even judging it, find the people who get you. And
Okay.
they're there, right? And, with the internet, we can find people and then get in a room with people who get you because it's world changing.
Absolutely. Oh, I love this. Now, guys, make sure you go and follow her. Make sure you go and get the downloadable that she's got for retreats, especially if you're thinking about creating retreats. And even if you're not quite ready yet, it's good to know what kind of things you need to think about right now. So make sure you go ahead and download that. And you know what? Totally stalk Darla out on social media, right? Go and check out what she's doing and what she's getting up to, right? She's not going to worry about that. She wants you to do that. Right. And so again, Darla, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I really appreciate all the information.
Thank you, Kay. So fun.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much. And I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.